Coaching for the Oakland A's organization right now in the AZL. Like a fourth coach, basically. Just get my feet wet because I just got done playing last year, so I'm new to this.
Rosie, we're on the same team.
Are we really? We got put on the same team?
I hope so.
We better be, man. I'll be lost without you, Kouz.
I know. Likewise.
So that's a great. So Kouz, why don't you introduce yourself? Well, let me first of all background on Kevin Kouzmanoff. I got to play with Kevin in 2010. Started playing with him in 2010 with the Oakland A's organization, and Kevin and I actually got to play in Dallas Braden's perfect game on May 9th, 2010, which was an unbelievable experience. Whenever anybody asked me what my favorite moment in baseball was, that was it. And Kouz and I got to share that memory together. But Kouz, if you want to just give a little background on yourself, that'd be awesome.
All right. So my name is Kevin Kouzmanoff, and I was born in Southern California, but raised here in Denver, Colorado, actually about 30 miles west of Denver, a little town called Evergreen. Went to high school there. I finished collegiate ball at the University of Nevada and was drafted by the Cleveland Indians after my senior year in the 6th round. And that was in 2003. Made all the stops along the way in the minors, and then got called up in 06 with Cleveland. And it was a September call-up. I was there for 30 days. And then that offseason, I got traded to the San Diego Padres. And I was with the Padres 07, 8, and 9. And then that offseason got traded to the Oakland A's. And was with the Oakland A's 2010, half of 2011. Sent down to the minors and finished the end of the 2011 season with the Colorado Rockies here in Denver, which was nice because it's in my backyard and in front of friends and family. And then I couldn't find a job. I was in the minors for 2 years in 2012 and 13. And then went to camp with the Texas Rangers in 2014 and was in the big leagues with them for 2 weeks before I had some back injuries that did me in, and so that's kind of my story. And now I am a hitting coach at the AZL level with Adam, and this is my second year. And I'm sitting here with my buddy JT, who's also from Denver. So maybe JT can say hello.
Yeah, what's up, guys? So I grew up hitting with Kevin. Kevin was sort of the older role model that we all looked up to, but we kind of had the same hitting coach all throughout high school and college. I played collegiately, was an All-American in college, and then played indie ball and played abroad a little bit thereafter in Australia and in Europe. So a little bit more of an abbreviated bio, not quite as prolific of a career, but hitting's definitely a passion of mine, and it's a really cool thing to get to hang out and listen to some of the wisdom you guys have to share with everybody.
And JT, I see you're wearing the Catalyst baseball shirt. Do you want to explain to us what that is?
That's just an indoor facility that we run here in Denver. Youth teams, club teams, private lessons, all that good stuff. So.
Right, cool. Awesome, man. Yeah, it's great to have you guys on. Kouz, one thing about Kouz is it's true, right? Your first major league at bat?
First pitch.
First pitch.
Yeah, first guy in the history of the game to hit a grand slam on the first pitch he saw. He's a humble guy.
I thought it was something like that.
Yeah.
That's a pretty cool stat right there. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, it was it was, that first at bat, I remember walking up to the plate thinking to myself, okay, this is my first major league at bat. I should probably see a pitch. That's what most guys do, is see a pitch. And I remember digging in and like, you know what got me here is me swinging the bat. So if he throws a strike here, I'm gonna swing at it. And he threw me a strike up in the zone. I was able to hit it out of the park for grand slam. So it was a special moment. All my friends and family were there, which was pretty cool.
And who was that off of? Do you remember?
Edison Volquez.
Yeah, man. Was it? Oh my goodness, who did he come up? No, he wasn't with the Reds at the time, right? He was with
Rangers.
Rangers. That's right. Yes.
Yeah, because I was with Cleveland.
Yeah.
I think you broke up a perfect game or a no-hit bid in like the 7th the next day, didn't you? The second game is like a no-hitter in the 7th, and he had a double off the wall or something.
Thanks, JT.
That's a good little start, man.
Good hype, man.
The next day, Kevin Millwood was pitching, and he had a no-hitter going into, I don't think it was quite that deep. It was somewhere that deep in the game, but ended up hitting a home run off of him to break up that no-hitter. So I was like 2 for, I don't know, 7 with 2 homers in the big leagues. So,
that's a good start, man.
yeah.
I like it. That's awesome, man. Well, yeah, thanks for the introduction. It's awesome, both of you guys. We got Jermaine Curtis. I think, Jermaine, you on? Or
What's going on?
hey, what's up, man? Do you want to?
You know,
So Jermaine and I, we got to play in 2017 in spring training. Jermaine, just want to give us a quick introduction of yourself as well.
so you guys know Jermaine Curtis. Played, most of my time in the minor leagues, but got up with the St. Louis Cardinals. Played with the Reds, played with the Twins, played with the A's with Adam. That's how I got to meet Rosie. But had a long, grinding career, but had a blast, and that's pretty much sums it all up.
All right, man. Well, thanks for being on. Thank you, everybody, for being on. We got a lot of great people on tonight. So I'm going to explain my goals for this webinar for you guys. So number one, the most important thing, because there's a lot of coaches on here, a lot of parents on here, but the most important thing in this webinar I want to do is to build confidence in the coaches and parents so they'll continue to build confidence in their players. So that's number one. And we have how we're going to do that. We're going to provide clear information. You're going to ask questions anytime you want. If there's any time you want me to stop during this PowerPoint, just say, hey, wait 1 second. I have a comment or question. And it's not only going to help you guys, it's going to help me too. There's a lot I know I still need to learn in this game. So, and then the why for me, like I really want to connect with you guys, a lot of parents and coaches, because I want to encourage these young coaches and parents to have that goal for their players to play college baseball one day. Because me, I never got drafted out of high school. I didn't get drafted my junior year of college. I didn't get drafted to my senior year. And that was just a bridge that got me over that gap from high school ball to actually being a professional ball player, is to play college baseball. And I know it's not easy to do, but it's something to aspire to. And that's what I would always motivate young players to want to play at that level, to kind of to set a high goal for themselves. So these are my goals for the webinar and what I'm trying to do with Baseball Utility. And this is the online course that we're going to go through, that we've been going through with the webinar. You got phase 1, phase 2. And then if you guys can sign up for the webinar if you want. Just go to sign up right here.
Rosie, I got a question.
Yeah, Kouz.
$149, what does that get you? Is it that once a week webinar? Is it email questions? Is it video feedback? Or is it just the webinar that once a week?
No. 149 is the whole online course. You go through the whole course, all 4 phases, and there's questions for each video. There's about 80 videos you go through. And there's actually challenges that I put in there. And if you do the challenges and you post it on Instagram, I'm going to send you lizard skin grips whenever you do a challenge.
Nice.
And if you guys complete it, the first 50 people to complete it, the whole entire course, I'm sending lizard skin batting gloves to. So it's kind of a cool little incentive. Because I really feel like you guys would get a lot out of doing this. It would definitely increase your baseball knowledge, especially at this time. But so I like starting off with a mental tip or like a mental prep idea, how like the mental approach to the game. we had Justin's on tonight, and he asked me if I can incorporate the mental side of the game into these webinars. So we've covered a lot about mental side of the game, and this is just one little thing, but it's a big thing that was a part of my game. I'm sure it's part of Kevin's and Jermaine's and a lot of other players that are on tonight as well. But you need to pay attention to detail, right? That's one thing. If I can go back as like a high school player or a college player, it would be to pay attention to detail. Like like this is one example of paying attention to detail, is looking for how a pitcher telegraphs his pitches, right? How he tips his pitches. And for me, that was, as I got older and I heard from different players, like, you can eliminate one pitch, right? If you can eliminate the off speed, for me, that'd be everything, because I'm a fastball hitter. Most of us are. Kuz, I'm not sure if you want to touch on that, if that was a part of your game at all, to read pitchers at all. And some people don't want to know what's coming, and that's another thing. Some people don't care. Or Jermaine, if Kuz, whatever.
Yeah. What's up, Jermaine?
How you doing, Kuz?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Man, it's great to see you. It's been a while.
Likewise. Yeah, it has. Rosie, I'm kind of like you. Now that I'm older and coaching in the game, I wish I would have paid more attention during the game, in between at bats, on the dugout bench, because hitting's so hard. It's so hard to hit that ball, and any little advantage that you can gain that can benefit you, I mean, it goes a long way, and I was the type of hitter that tried not to overanalyze and think a lot. I just want to keep it as simple as I could, because it's a really hard game, man, to stand up there and to hit that hit any pitch, but as far as picking up tendencies from the pitcher, I didn't do that as a young player, and I wish I would have, and I think that could have benefited me, and I could have been a better player.
Did you guys ever when, I mean, both of you had a lot of time, all three of you guys, the amount of at-bats you had in pro ball overall, was it typical to have coaches sharing information with you about pitches being tipped, tendencies, different things like that? Like, I know you have scouting reports all the time. How often was that a topic of discussion in the dugout? Like, hey, Glasnow, when he's throwing the curveball, he comes set, right at his neck, versus when he's throwing. Did you guys talk about that a lot, or not that much?
Yeah, I remember there's a lot of great hitting coaches or first base coaches that would give that to me for sure. Look for this. And early in my career, I didn't want to know what was coming. But
Yeah.
the older I got, I'm like, please let me know, because I can understand that I can eliminate that pitch. I don't have to swing at it. Even though I know it's coming, I don't have to swing at it. I just eliminate it. And that's when, well, I'm sure Jermaine could.
So for me, no, honestly, I don't remember anybody talking about it. I do remember, like you said, some first base coaches, they'll get it because they're dialed in at first base, and they want you to get to second no matter what. But no one would talk about it in the dugout. But one of the things that I did, so first part of my career, it was good. I could just go out there, play, and get the results I wanted, and I just moved up. Then I get to about AAA, and there's that wall between being a big leaguer and you're staying in AAA. And I realized, I needed to make an adjustment. So what I did was I pulled out, I went to the local store, Rite Aid, whatever, bought a notebook, and I started documenting everything. So, for example, if I'm facing the pitcher, let's say this is Brady, by the way, he played with us, Rosie, with the A's. But let's say we're facing Brady right here. I would write first pitch he threw, where was that, the location, everything. But I would literally document my whole bat. When I was done, and I went back into the dugout. But what that allowed me to do was And here's the big key. Here's the big key. Sorry, I'm jumping ahead. I also put the catcher that was catching, because the catcher has tendencies. So that would allow me to know, like, give me the edge in my next at bat. So I documented everything from the fastballs to curveballs to sliders. And then I had everything documented. And then when I went into my at bats, I knew how they're pitching me. I knew everything. I knew what the catcher liked to do. Let's say he liked 2 soft, 1 hard, or he liked 2 in, 1 away. So I started to have these tendencies that I use to give me the edge, and that elevated my game and got me back to the big leagues.
That's so awesome. So something sort of akin to that was super useful in my career was my freshman year in junior college at Central Arizona. I was kind of like the first bat off the bench, late innings for the first half of the year. And we had a opponent pitcher's tendency chart that our coaches had somebody on the bench keep. And because like I was sort of in that role at that point in time, he would always assign me to keeping that chart. And it was a opponent pitcher's tendency chart. So not just charting my at-bats, but charting the entire lineup, our team's at-bats, and exactly what the pitcher was doing in every different count. And then it's incredible how easy it is to pick up tendencies once you actually try to start tracking it. You know,
Exactly.
Like you're saying, Jermaine, when you actually start documenting it and you have it written down, and it's not kind of this nebulous thing in your head, but you have, okay, what exactly did you do in a 2-1 count the last 7 times he was in a 2-1 count, you know? And you just with a simple chart, you can take a look at that and sort of see what some of those tendencies are. And like you're saying, Rosie, maybe if I can just eliminate the curveball and have a little bit more confidence in the fact that the fastball is coming, you know, that little bit of certainty is the difference of being on time or getting jammed, you know?
Oh, for sure.
Can I add one more thing? Oh, sorry to cut you off.
No, you're good. That's all right.
I was just saying that the other thing that helped me out was I started to know more about how I was as a hitter. And I think that's what separates the good players, the good hitters, between the bad hitters, is that you start to understand who you are as a hitter. So before, I would take the first pitch, and because I said I had this belief in my head that I couldn't hit the first fastball. So I would always go up there, take. And then what I noticed was I was still hitting 300, but I walked more. And so once I started doing the book, I realized that I realized that 70% of my hits were fastballs middle away. And I was good at hitting like the fastball early. So I was like, what am I doing? Taking the fastball right down the middle. So then that changed my entire approach and allowed me to like separate, you know, do better. And I still walked. I thought I was going to stop walking as much, but I still walked, and my doubles and my home runs went up. So I think that's another way of like helping the player is having that book to understand your strengths and weaknesses.
That's fantastic. That's solid information right there. And actually, last week, it's great that you said that, Jermaine, because last week on the webinar, the mental prep that I was talking about is actually writing stuff down. Like for me, I would write down when I went home at night, more like the emotions that I was feeling, and I would set goals for myself. But you say you do it for the at bat and to know the catcher, to remember. It's so important for you young players and you young coaches. Parents out there, encourage your son to start writing down stuff. It's a way to prepare to get the edge, and it's great. Like all this stuff is so important. And I made this comment. I was on a webinar last night, but I made this comment. All this preparation, for me, it doesn't really matter. When you step in the box, what's going to trump all that is your desire to beat that pitcher, the desire to win that pitch, not the at bat, but just to win the pitch. That's what you're preparing for, is actually having that. You're in the trench right there, you know, like you got to trust that preparation that you've done when you're in that batter's box. And just the one comment I wanted to make.
1,000%.
You have to take it pitch by pitch and win that pitch, because when you look on Sports Center and you know, you see a double in the gap, you know, for a walk-off or something, you don't see that at bat in those previous pitches that batter took. I mean, just took some bastard pitches but SportsCenter doesn't show that. They just show a rope in the gap, but
Right.
it's winning those pitches pitch to pitch so you can get that pitch to hit.
Yeah. Fantastic. Thank you, guys. All right. So in this picture, in this image, you guys can see the tip, right? That's kind of rhetorical because a lot of you guys are muted, but it looks small. Like if you just looked at it without the arrows, if the arrows weren't there, you wouldn't even notice it probably. Well, like I would say 90% of us wouldn't notice. But you can see the difference. I can see his arm, like from the back view, you can see his arm. His actually throwing arm is more upright on the fastball and more down on the curveball, right? You can see that, but it's the little tells. But I think JT made the point that the more you start recognizing these little tells, especially in high school, you can start in high school, in college. If you can recognize a tell, it's going to help you, first of all, concentrate a little better, but it's going to help you eliminate a pitch. What was it? In 2018, there was a kid, he would chew gum. Like when he was chewing gum, it would be a curveball. And once he stopped chewing, it would be a fastball. It was that big of a tell that we picked up on the bench. And it was like, for me, that helped me later in my career. I'm like, this is awesome. But anyway, so that's one thing, mental preparation, pay attention to detail, right? Okay, so pay attention to detail, the mental side. So tipping pitches, so hitters and base runners both benefit from it. So another way to pay attention to detail is on defense, I know this is a hitting webinar, but on defense, well, even hitting on deck, when you're on deck, you can pre-pitch the situation. You can know, all right, there's a guy on first base. If this guy bunts him over, you're driving him in. Or if he's on second base, he bunts him over, you're hitting the ball to the outfield. You're mentally preparing for the situation, right? But more on defense, I thought about it. I'm sure a lot of you guys on here can agree that you got to know the situation, know your pitcher, what kind of stuff he has that day, if his slider's working better that day, or if he's pounding a guy in, like the at-bat before. Know the sign. If you're playing shortstop or second base, know that if it's a curveball, you can probably cheat a step to the right if it's a right-handed hitter. And you can relay it to your third baseman. Kouz and Jermaine, you guys both played third base. Jermaine, right? Played a lot of third base.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Like, did you guys like the shortstop? I'm not sure if you did or not. Telling you like like letting you know that off speed's coming. You guys both like that, right?
Of
Yeah.
course.
Right. Yeah. Well, all right. So yeah, the third base as a shortstop or a second baseman, you let your corner guys know. And you don't want to. For me, I never like doing it as a shortstop. I never like telling the third baseman too early because I feel like the third base coach might hear me and then relay something to his hitter. So I usually did it when the pitcher was going up or like he was starting his windup at least. Then I would relay that to the third baseman. So I feel like that was really important to communicate. So that's part of pre-pitching the situation. So know who's on base, know the hitter. These are all great things for pre-pitching the situation, mental game of baseball, right? And then for me, the term have your head on a swivel, right? For me, I use that a lot on defense as well, especially for like cutoffs and relays. No, keep looking back at the field. Look at where your outfielder is going to field the ball and where you got to line up to and see if the guy's rounding second base or rounding third base. So especially like for us, we could never hear. I know like in travel ball, club ball, high school, they're always like 2-2-2 or 3-3-3, but for us, the crowds, you couldn't hear it. So we had to always have our head on a swivel. And the best example for this is the Derek Jeter play. You guys probably knew that. That's how aware mentally that Derek Jeter is in the game. He was watching all different aspects of the game. And this is just a picture right here. I couldn't find – I'll try to get the video up, but if you guys remember that's Derek Jeter, shortstop, right? He's cutting across the whole entire field. What was it? It was an overthrow, right? From They missed the cutoff at first base.
Double cut down the right field line, I think double cut down the right field line, and they
Nope.
missed the double cut.
They missed
It
the
was
double cut.
offline, and then he redirected it with that backhand flip.
You're right. If his head's not on a swivel, if he's not paying attention to the runners where they're at, and if he doesn't know that, if he doesn't pre-pitch the situation, there's no way. It's a whole different outcome for that world. What was that? The ALCS, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Whatever year that was.
That's why he was the shortstop, though.
He's the captain, El Capitan, right?
Because the third baseman, we would have just been hanging out at third base watching the entire time.
Yeah, that's right. That's a great point. Yeah, so that's the mental side of the game that I just wanted to touch on today. So now we'll go into the mechanical part of hitting. And again, the 4 core values: rhythm and timing, weight transfer, connection, and finish. And now we've already talked about connection of phase 1, but that was a few weeks ago. A lot of you weren't on there, right? So this is just a little review of what connection is. So we got early connection, we have swing plane, and we have connection at contact.
Hey, Rose, something real quick while you're getting this up.
Yeah, Derek, what's up, man?
On that G play, I think one thing that can be pointed out about that too is that's him being an athlete and a ball player. That's not – he really had no business being in that area of the field by definition, but he's being an athlete and playing the game of baseball, not being mechanical and thinking about those things. He's trying to win a game and do what he can.
That's a great point, man. Like a lot of us, like we want to be so coachable and we do exactly what the textbook tells us to do, right? But it's like you got to think outside the box. You get to be an artist out there. You know, the baseball is a science, but it's also an art too because you get to think outside the box. But it happens quick though. That's a great point of being athletic.
Yeah, being athletic and being aware. You put those two together.
Yeah, being aware. Yeah, court awareness. So you can see here. Here's the early connection. You see Matt Chapman keeping the shaft of the back close to his back shoulder. And then another cue that you can tell your players is you want to stay short and compact to the ball. And then, like the analogy, think figure skater. As a coach, make sure that they're staying compact, not getting away from themselves. And I'm going to show you the comparison from this young hitter. You know, he's probably off timing, probably lost his rhythm and timing, having a tough time transferring his weight, probably an off-speed pitch. But he's disconnected. He lost that early connection, right? So there's hits. There's hits in these swings right here. Don't get me wrong. There's hits. But to be consistent, you look at Matt Chapman right here, how close that bat is to his back shoulder. Once you get too far away, everything slows down. It's a longer swing. That's what you don't want that. All right, so you got early connection, you got swing plane. For me, if you're not on time, it's almost impossible to have a good swing plane. It's either you're rushing into the pitch or you're trying to recoil and your bat's not in the zone consistently for the amount of time it should be. A way to help swing plane is to make sure that you maintain posture. Hunched over a little bit too far, it's going to affect that rotational acceleration is what they call it. And obviously you don't want to be too hunched over. You want to have a good curvature in your spine. So that's swing plane. And then just a good term to use is short to it, long through it. That's what always helped me. A lot of people talk about launch angle. Yeah, you do want to swing up on it. Obviously the ball's coming down. You're swinging up on it. You're getting on plane. But the thing is, how do you get to the baseball? How do you get from start to get into the zone? I just always like to tell young players, short to it, long through it. I'm not sure if anybody has anything they want to add to that about swing plane or early connection.
I mean, I think everything you said is great. Just a couple more cues I think that sometimes can be helpful in terms of understanding it, or maybe just something that connects with a young player a little bit differently than it will with another one. The connection piece of it, like you're talking about, I love. Number one, you're 100% right. There are hits in those more disconnected swings, but you're less efficient into the zone. So as you start seeing more velocity, it's going to be a lot more difficult to get hits when you're disconnected on the backside. And then it's an energy leak, right? Like you're bleeding away a little bit of that power that you still have. It's really stored and maintained kind of in the cock of that front wrist. So the same idea we've all talked about. You don't want to cast. You don't want to cast the tip of the bat back too early. The other part of staying connected, I use the exact same terminology that you do, keeping the bat close to your back shoulder. But for some kids also, seems like they connect with it a little bit better sometimes if you can help them understand that it has a lot to do with what happens with this bottom hand front side wrist. So if this happens too early, obviously we're casting the tip back, and that's what creates that disconnect between the shaft of the bat and the back shoulder. So trying to maintain, right, that wrist staying cocked as we make our move, our initial move forward towards the baseball.
I love that, man.
Bringing some attention to that can help kids feel a more connected turn sometimes.
Right, because that's actually something they can do right here with their hands. It's not, they're not thinking about way out here. They're actually thinking about what's connected to their body.
Yeah, and just the actual
I like that.
action that's happening as they make that move.
That's a fantastic cue. Yeah, I like that.
Adam, if I can add something to that too.
Please.
What you see with the younger kids especially is a lot of early arm bar. So when they early arm bar, now they become disconnected immediately, and then they push the hands. So it's the early arm bar, then they push, and they're completely off swing plane. So, you hear a lot of coaches talking about walk away from the hands or stride away from your hands. And I don't think it could be a worse cue, because then initiates that early arm bar. It's not Bryce Harper arm bar where it's later in the swing. It's way too early, and it gets them disconnected immediately. Right. One thing that we do a lot with the younger kids is, I don't know if you guys have seen the Oates connection ball. Yeah. So we'll use the Oates connection ball, and we just teach them to turn. If you push, you're off plane. And, if you get disconnected, you're not going to be on plane. You got no shot.
Yeah, we use that drill all the time at the camps that I do in the off season. The connection balls. Yeah, I started using that my last 2 years in pro ball.
Dude, it's money.
Yeah, we love it. We use it for both. We put it under this back here.
Yep.
Oh no, sorry, right here. You put it between your shoulder and the shaft of the bat, and then you also put it between
under
your front ribs too to make sure you stay on plane.
Sure.
I want to ask Kuz, the arm bar idea, because a lot of young players watch big leaguers and they want to mimic what they're doing. Like for example, Josh Donaldson with the open foot. That's how he says he practiced. He opens his front foot and has his toes basically pointed towards the mound. And kids watch this, and a lot of coaches are telling them to do that. But I'm like, these kids are so young and they're not strong enough to quite build that consistency with that yet. For me personally, I'm like, there's a better way to get there for young players. But Kuz, and correct me if I'm wrong, but whenever I watch Kuz hit, I feel like he did almost arm bar, he had his arms all the way back, because I feel like because you're strong enough to do that, right, Kuz? Or did you feel like your arm bar? Anybody ever tell you that? Or
he had early arm bar on that grand slam.
That's right.
Tell you, I watched it on YouTube.
Well, I didn't have all this movement in my before toe touch at launch position, and I had a very tough time starting with my hands close and then walking away from the hands and getting to that launch position, that load. So I had to start loaded up. So sometimes my cue was the shaft of that bat would touch the back of my arm, and I knew that I was loaded up there because I was trying to hide my hands from the pitcher. I wasn't necessarily trying to have an arm bar. As soon as you mentioned arm bar, I was thinking of, Ken Griffey Jr. I mean, great hitter.
Right, yeah.
Now, can you teach that to a young hitter? I don't know. Maybe. But Griffey was in the big leagues at 18 or 19 years old. I feel like he was just born with that, But I feel like with the arm bar, is maybe we can start with our hands closer. If we're walking away from our hands, we can get to that load position instead of maybe having our hands back and then walking away. And then now we are arm barring even more.
Right.
And that could cast, like JT was talking about, the tip of the bat or casting our hands. As far as opening up the front foot with our stride, we do want that disassociation between our hips and our shoulders, right? We want our hips pointed this way and our shoulders pointed that way, preferably hips pointed at the pitcher, and then upper body or shoulders maybe pointed for a right-handed hitter to the second baseman. The more we can get that load, the more bat speed we can generate, So I think that's important with that X factor, they call it that X factor, is to get separation. That's a very, very important move. If you look at all the big leaguers, man, they all got that move, and yeah, your hips are going to go a little bit before your upper body, so you're automatically going to have that little separation. But I feel like the more separation, the more torque you have, the more energy you're storing. And I think a great example of that is Mookie Betts. I mean, if you pull him up and you go in slow motion, man, that guy, pretty much textbook. JT and I were talking about him the other day. He's a great hitter to watch.
And a little dude that creates big time bat speed.
That's a great
in
point.
large part because of his kinematic sequencing and separation.
Yeah, he's fun to watch.
Yeah.
Adam, and I think I was on a couple weeks ago, and I don't know if you remember, we were talking about stride length and amount of load that a person does with their hands. And on that grand slam that Kuz hit, his base, he's a pretty wide stance, and it almost looks like he has a long stride, but it's more of a pick your foot up and almost put it down at the same spot. And I think that's exactly because, like you said, Kuz, you struggled getting to that loaded position, so you started preloaded, had a very short stride, and when it was time to go, it was time to go. You were already stretched and ready to go.
Correct. Not a lot of noise, not a lot of movement. I just tried to keep it simple.
Nice and quiet.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's fantastic.
I got a question for you.
Yeah, Mish, what's up?
You guys hear me?
Yeah, Mish.
Kuz, when did you start working on that, or when did you notice? At what age would you say you started in that position?
In high school, I was a very handsy hitter in high school, and I had my hands here, and I had a little bit of a leg kick, and I was able to take my hand. I had trouble getting this move, but I just basically walked away from my hands, and I would go straight this way versus this load. Can you see that?
Yeah.
And then I went to junior college, and the coach said, you can't hit like that, and so then they changed me around where I had to get my front foot down early and wait. And then I had hip slide, and then everything was just dragging behind it. And then I came home, and after my freshman year in the summer, and it was the first summer I didn't play baseball, and I hit baseballs. I studied the Major League Baseball swing, and I swung like those guys did, it was trying to get rid of a lot of muscle memory. A lot of it was mirror work. For the first 3 weeks, I didn't hit a baseball. I just stood in front of a mirror, and I just did this move over and over. And it was tough to get that big move. So, well, shoot, I could just start here, and if I could start here and at toe touch at launch position, if I can look like those big leaguers, I got something. So it wasn't until after my freshman year of college, when I started that.
So one day you just kind of, as you were working on that drill in the mirror, you just thought, why don't I just start here and go?
Correct.
And
yeah.
Kind of took off.
Just trying to keep it simple. Now, would I have preferred this big move or, a Todd Helton where I got a lot going? Yes, because I do think that rubber band effect is pretty important. If you're going to jump, and dunk a basketball, you're going to go down and then come back up. I wish I could have had that, but I had trouble, figuring it out once a live pitch was thrown at me. So I just eliminated all the noise and kept it quiet.
So let me ask you, Kuz, were you more consistent after that? Were you more consistent in your game after doing all that?
Yes, I was, because since it was so simple, I felt like all I had to do was just think about getting a good pitch to hit, and hitting it hard. I didn't have this big timing mechanism with it.
I think that like sums it up. I mean, most of the time we're looking at all this, what we should be doing, our Scap loaded, all that. But at the end of the day, can you hit the fastball consistently? And I think that's what you learn by doing that. You simplify your swing that you can repeat consistently, and that gave you the results, right?
That's right. Yeah, you got to be consistent. You got to be able to hit the fastball to make it to the big leagues. That's the one you want to hit anyways, I feel like.
Real simple position we get the younger kids in to make sure at toe tap, foot plant, in and around right at that time is the knob of the bat facing basically the catcher. Because the picture you had up before of the boy who looked like he was completely out of sync, you could see where his knob was. I mean, he was way out in front. So had he been able to keep his hands back where Kuz starts, even if he ended up way out front, obviously his hands are going to start moving forward. He still would have been able to stay back and what we term swing behind the ball, turn behind the ball instead of lunging at the ball and just flipping his hands at the ball, if that makes sense to you guys.
Yeah, I think you can still come forward while staying back, and maybe keep your hands.
Dude, back. I only seen you hit once, and it was today when I looked up that you were going to be on here. And the way you stay stacked over your backside is exactly what I was thinking when I watched you. You move forward, right? But you maintain posture, and all your center of mass stays stacked over your back leg in that area. I mean, I thought it was beautiful. I mean, that's your first swing in the big leagues. I was like, you might as well retire. That was crazy.
Can only go down from there, Kuz.
Exactly.
Just playing. All right, this is fantastic. I'm loving this. I'm learning a ton and learning all these different cues and the different approaches to hitting and staying connected. All this, the weight transfer stuff. So the final concept of the core value of connection is connection to contact, and basically, I mean, pretty fundamental. The palm up, palm down. I was helping a kid out today, a player. It might have been Jim, might have been your son, Caden, but he rolls his hands over too soon, right? So you want to make sure that you keep your palm up, palm down, right? And I like to do the one-hand drills for this to make sure that the top hand palm is up, bottom hand palm is down. And again, one-hand drills for that is great. The power V, they say, and I'm going to show you a drill that I like doing. I saw a lot of other professional ball players doing as well. That helped me get back to like the connection feeling. It's the power V. And then making sure that you're accelerating through the pitch as well. And I like using weighted balls for this. Accelerating through that connection into finish. Let's see. So a couple, I think Jermaine, you mentioned the setting the Scap. I'm like, oh boy, we're gonna talk about it now. But it always helped me. It always helped me anchor. I always think about like anchor the backside, anchor my hip, anchor my Scap, but not like to turn my shoulder. Like Gurriel from the Astros, like he's way turned. But like I always thought anchor this. Wait, like hold, explode. And I always did an exercise often. I incorporated it into my pre-game routine. So setting the Scap always helped me. And everybody's going to be different. It might not work for everybody. It might not trigger a part of your routine. So just shut it down. You don't have to do this. But it helped me. I know it helped me. The drill I'm going to introduce, I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen it, but you choke up almost halfway up your bat and then doing off the tee or soft toss. You explode to contact, and you stay connected and let the ball fly off your bat. You stop at contact. And then the back up the tee. You start the tee up front, and you keep backing it up so you can feel how long your bat is in the zone. And I got videos for these that I'll share with you guys. So really quick, I know it's getting late for everybody. So if you guys can't stay on, you guys can take off, but these are like 1-minute videos. Your scapula is your shoulder blade, and when it's set properly, it stabilizes your upper body, helps maintain posture, and prevents energy leaks during weight transfer and connection. So this is an exercise that I do before games. I use a band, preferably with handles on it, and I step on the middle part of the band with both of my feet to create that resistance with the band. I start with both hands close to my shoulders, and then I raise one arm up to the sky, activating the middle back muscles for that arm. And also the muscles underneath my shoulder blade, I'm activating as well. Then I pull down and internally rotate my shoulder by chopping my hand down like a hammer and lifting my back elbow. You should feel a burning sensation, and this is what you should feel when you prepare to attack the pitch. So I'm not sure if that rings. If that, I saw Kuz, you trying to do it. JT, you guys were trying to do it, but I did a lot of those, like just to feel that scap back there. You know, I don't want to be disconnected with my scap, but I'm not. If you have a question, Kuz.
A real simple way we get people into that position, Adam, is stand up and put your hands in a push-up position.
Right. I like that.
Right. And there you go. There's your scap load.
I feel right.
You know, there's your scap load right there.
Fantastic. Yeah, it's easy, simple like that.
You know, and a pinch doesn't have to be excessive. That's where you got to be careful, right? You tell kids to scap load and they get stuck back there.
Right.
But you know, just enough to stay connected and keep your hands back if you want to term it or whatever you want to term it.
Fantastic. Yeah. It's a simple, a subtle stretch or whatever it is that you're activating back there. But for me, I like to incorporate that into my everyday routine just to make sure that I am. But I also, me personally, I have these winging scaps. Like I can pop my, look at these things.
Put them together.
Like and the trainers always told me to do it because I don't, like, my muscles back there, like there's none.
Just hypermobile.
Yeah, I guess so. And I guess that's maybe why I personally do it. That's like saying everybody's different. Kuz, you and I got certified in the On-Base University, right? Yeah. And I failed all the tests. But like stuff like that, my body is kind of a wreck. But I did things like this because I knew it told my brain, like, all right, that's important. But
so let me ask you guys, how much did you guys lift during your career? Were you doing any functional movement, you know, testing back then and lifting, or not really at all?
Spring training. For me, the only testing we did was in spring training, and that was it. We did no testing after that. I think nowadays they're starting to test once a month, I believe, at least in our organization. We're starting to test. So we test in spring training, and I think we're going to test at the beginning of every month, and then have specific stretches or exercises for that player.
But you do maintenance lifts all throughout the year, for sure.
Lifting weights. I mean, my father owned health spas growing up, so as a young kid, I was in gyms, and so I grew up around the weightlifting era, and so I lifted after every single game. I felt good mentally, physically when I lifted weights. It gave me that confidence to be out on the field. So I mean, and I was lifting heavy, but whether I was playing baseball or not, I was still lifting weights,
That's awesome.
But I do think there needs to, now you see guys squatting 500 pounds and, deadlifting the gym, and that's good that they're that strong, but I still think that we need to incorporate a sport-specific movement in that, it's good to be strong, but we also need to be able to move.
Yeah.
That's a great point. That's awesome. This is great stuff. I'm going to keep moving on, and I'm going to show you guys the drill because I know we're running out of time. I know a lot of people want to get rolling. It's late out there on the East Coast.
Yeah. It's early. Nobody's got anywhere to go. We're not working. Kids don't got to go to school. Believe me.
You are looking for entertainment.
That's it.
All right.
No, I got on this on Tuesday. I was like, oh my God, where is everybody? I was on the wrong day.
Oh man, you couldn't wait. We should start doing it every day just for you. All right, so this is the drill I was talking about. Again, I'm not sure if it worked for anybody else. This is me personally that helped me get back to connection and feeling good. Use a short bat, and if you don't have a short bat, just choke up almost halfway up your bat. Use a tee, and when you take a swing, connect and stop at impact. The ball's not going to fly too far off your bat, but the goal is to connect and hit the ball up the middle. Take 2 rounds of 5 swings off the tee, and then have a coach overhand front toss from behind the screen about 15 to 20 feet away from home plate. Try to be as smooth as possible, because if you're herky-jerky, your lead shoulder will start aching, and we don't want that. Keep the barrel of your bat close to your back shoulder to maintain connection. If it's off your back shoulder, you're more susceptible for a long swing. All right. Have you guys seen that? Anybody?
That is like the drill right now. Everybody
right now. That's what that's like the hot drill.
Yeah. I mean, I was watching it. It was the Red Sox All Access the other day, and Mitch Moreland was in the cage with Tim Hine doing drills, and it's like off the tee, they're doing one-hand drills where they stop and hold, and then, you see all the guys in the background. It's everywhere. Everybody's doing it. Great for connection. It's also great for your barrel direction out front and, like, helping you maintain the correct direction rather than kind of flying off,
Yeah, it's perfect, yeah. Well,
What's up, Rosie?
Go ahead.
We do a lot of check swing stops, and another good way to do it, again, I'll go back to the younger kids a lot, split grip, because split grip really helps them with preventing of racing back elbow. So that helps them out a lot.
Like the Ty Cobb grip?
Yeah.
Even a little bit,
Even
a little bigger. Yeah.
Even bigger.
And because they're not as strong also.
Right. Yeah, I've seen it.
When you split the grip, the better your ability to actually stop the bat.
Yeah.
So it helps mechanically, but it also just helps functionally because of the strength element of it.
We do a lot of check swing stops, and we do them with PVC, and we do it into a heavy bag with the younger kids as well. And it's really to help eliminate racing back elbow and to eliminate early armbar. We do it a little differently in how we do our barrel path than how you're showing on this. That's all.
Cool. Yeah.
Hey, Rosie, you mind if I chime in?
Yeah, Barrett. Barrett's in Kent State. He's I don't know. So yeah, Barrett, go ahead.
No, what's up, guys? Hey, I'm glad you mentioned this drill. I saw it for the first time this fall. I was actually at UCF coaching, and one of the guys helping out was Andy Barquette, who was one of the hitting coaches with the Red Sox last couple of years. And we had our guys doing it this fall, and that drill we also did with our guys keeping their heels in the ground, and it was a big direction drill and keeping the ball. If you're right-handed, stay in middle right center, left-handed, stay in middle left center, and it was the big, I guess, feedback to that is when you're choked up on a regular bat. If that bottom part of the bat, the knob, the rest of the handle is hitting you in the wrist or in the side, it's there's not enough space, is what Andy would talk about. It was the first time I've seen the drill, but our guys really liked it and learned how to. It taught them how to use the ground and how to be tension free up top, and just we talked about easy power. And tension free equals backspin and that type of stuff. So the direction being tension free, and that drill was really good for our guys as far as feedback and just keeping things simple.
That's fantastic, man.
Mookie said, "Smooth is fast."
That's right.
Andy Barquette.
I had a hitting coach in A-ball tell me spaghetti arms to keep that stay smooth, stay loose, whatever. But all right, guys. So that's awesome to know that that's like really like in right now. People are all doing that. I forgot the players I always saw doing it. but I was like, man, that really helps me get back to feeling good, is this choke up and stop at contact drill. And then just want to introduce the back to tee up. Pretty simple, but it's kind of like the way I explain it is kind of advanced. So this is like more like phase 4 of the hitting course. So you're going to mark or note the exact contact point where you first start feeling powerful and connected. Keep backing up the tee to the point where you start feeling crowded and uncomfortable, and then mark that point as well. These 2 marks signify the length of your hitting zone and indicate how long your swing should stay on plane for every single swing that you take. In your final round, pay attention to your new established hitting zone and hit bullets off the back net. You should feel level through the hitting zone and connected on every swing that you take. And I know, like, you see like the blast motion, that blue, I think it might be the next. Yeah, right here. So I draw it out, right? Yeah, you know, your swing gets into the zone back here, right? Initiates back where this black line is. But to actually, like, you see kids come out of the hitting zone way before this second red mark. And that video is actually longer. I trimmed it up. But yeah, I like to go from like way out in front where I feel like way extended and back it all the way back up to where I'm hitting bullets to the first base dugout. You know, because you're hitting it so deep, but you feel like, all right, you're in the zone longer and now. But like the demonstration I just showed is that you want these 2 red lines. That's how you indicate how long I must stay in the zone for. Especially because there's probably some coaches and parents on here that have high school players that still have an aluminum bat in their hand. I highly recommend getting a wood bat in your hand as soon as possible because you have to stay through the zone with a wood bat. A wood bat will tell you if you're coming out of that zone. And I think Kuz, you and I were working with Cooper in Arizona just a couple weeks ago with that, how important swing playing is. I'm not sure if you want to touch on that.
Swing playing is extremely important. Most big leaguers have this swing plane. You talk about backing up the tee. You know, you should be able to hit ball 1, ball 2, ball 3, right? I mean, we should be able to stay through all 3 of those pitches. Maybe ball 1 is if we're early, ball 2 we're on time, maybe ball 3 is if we're late. But if we're on playing with that pitch, very difficult to miss. Now, if you're holding a bat, and I love this demonstration because it's an extreme, that if you're ready and here comes this pitch, and if we take our bat and swing straight down, our timing has to be very perfect, right? I mean, it's like, here's the line of the pitch, and if we swing straight down, our timing's got to be absolutely perfect. But the more we can get on playing with that pitch, we could be late, punch it through, second base hole, or it could be early and pull that thing. So I think swing playing is extremely important.
It's awesome. Yeah.
Timing, swing playing.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Timing and swing playing, right?
Timing and swing, yeah. I mean,
if you're on time and you're on plane, you can be ugly.
Well,
that's my whole career.
The beauty of swing playing is that it widens your margin for error as it relates to your timing.
Right, exactly. That's
if you're on plane, then you have a bigger hitting zone.
Fantastic.
Exactly on time.
Right. So if the line of the pitch is coming this way and we swing straight down, our timing has to be absolutely perfect.
Yep.
Right? There we go.
There you go. Get the PVC.
There we go. Visual aid.
There we go.
Like, who's playing pool?
So if this is the line of the pitch and we swing down this way, our timing's got to be perfect. Now, if we can get on this plane with the line of the pitch all the way through, like JT said, we have a little margin for error where we could be late or it could be early.
Yep.
And still have our good chances to hit that pitch. Does that make sense?
It's awesome, man. It's fantastic.
That's why in our instruction and I know a lot of, and again, cues are cues. We never tell our kids to take their hands to the ball, or swing down on a ball ever, because it causes them to push. It causes racing back elbow, and it doesn't allow them to get on swing plane on time. And people will argue. JT had mentioned a little bit of some of the younger kids aren't strong enough, and what we tend to argue is we want to start them as early as possible, because I don't care if a kid can't hit at 8. We want them to have proper swing mechanics, as early as you know what I'm saying.
I agree with
right?
that. No, 100%.
Yeah.
I
Some
would
people will
always
use the
argue
excuse of, the kid's just not strong enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think the last thing you should do is say, well, we can't teach a kid to do this because they're not big enough or strong enough yet, because then exactly.
That's what I was saying.
Right.
I was saying that they're not. That was my argument, is that they're not. I think some kids are too, for me, from what I've seen, I think
so the thing is it all has to do with what exact mechanic you're talking about, right?
Right, yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
certain things.
Yeah.
Like extra movement, trying to do a huge meet in the middle move, big leg kick like Donaldson, maybe that's too much noise.
That ain't going to work for a little kid.
But in terms of, your swing plane, your launch position, the core things in a swing, I agree. Yeah, I wouldn't say don't teach them because they're not strong enough, as it relates to kind of like being connected, swinging on plane, those type of things.
It's good stuff. Jermaine, did you have something to say? You have something to add?
I wanted to throw it back to Kuz, because I want to talk about the swing plane and the drill that I did to help me get on the swing plane, but I want to throw it back to Kuz. Like, what did you do to get yourself on plane? You're saying, get on that plane, but like, is there a specific drill that you actually did that helped you get on plane?
I like the how do you, if you have a low and in pitch, how are you going to hit that pitch and keep it fair? Do you keep the hands above the ball, barrel above the hands? And if we do that, we're going to, as a right-handed hitter, we're going to wear out that third base coach, or maybe pull into the dugout, right? So what I like to do is set that ball up on a tee low and in, and pull my hands inside and hit that thing right back up the middle. First move with the shoulder has got to be this way, because this has to be on plane with that pitch, right? If the first move with our shoulder is this way and the line of the pitch is coming here, we're immediately playing to that pitch, and we're gonna yank that thing. So our first move has got to be, I know this is a touchy subject with our shoulder going that way, but our shoulder has to go
up and back.
Right, so we're on plane with that pitch. Does that make sense? As soon as we go this way, we're off plane. It's very difficult to get on plane. So for me, I like to hit the ball off the tee on an inside pitch right back up the middle of that, and that forced me to be on plane with a pitch. Now, maybe like a lot of us, my dad, my coaches, and their dads taught everybody, swing down and barrel above the hands. Well, growing up and taking so many swings over the years, that was my muscle memory, or whatever you want to call it. So I had to really beat that out of myself.
Yep.
And sometimes I had to work on going inside out, taking my swing plane towards second base, because my swing plane, I felt like I was going towards shortstop, because that's what I was taught my whole life. Does that make sense?
You're taught to keep your shoulders level and swing level, right? I mean,
yeah, really, the only level swing you can have is if you have a pitch up at your letters.
That's it.
That would be a level. How do you have a level swing if it's like,
Listen, that grand slam you hit was above your chest, but you kept your hands above the ball. Your front shoulder still went up and back. Your back shoulder dipped a little, and I'm not talking about dived. And that's how you stayed on plane with a slightly upward swing with a high pitch, and you crushed the damn.
Was it an Oppo homer too, or no?
Dead center.
Dead center.
Yeah.
And power. So I love that, by the way. Quick story on that. I'm playing with the Cardinals, and Troy Gloss, I was struggling, hitting ground balls, a shortstop, not being connected. And Troy Gloss pulled me to the side. I went to UCLA. Troy Gloss went to UCLA, so kind of have that connection. And then he pulled me inside and he was like, hey, man, put the tee inside and try to hit this up the middle. And I put it in. He was like, get it as tight as you can inside and drive it up the middle. And I swear that like changed my year. And
Jeter.
so I would say that that's a great drill. But for me, on the swing plane, one of the things that I did to help me was I put a glove on my hand, my right hand. I'm being a right-handed hitter, and I would get myself ready, load, and then I'll just get on plane with the actual pitch and catch it. So I do it with the flips. I do it with, let's say, off a machine. And that was like one of the biggest drills to help me stay on plane. And then I would force myself to stay through the ball and stay high. So I'm a big believer on the top hand. So top hand has to, because it controls the barrel. So top hand controls the barrel. Again, like you said, staying square, and then right when it gets there, it gets on plane, finishing high, and stay through it. So that's one of the things I always did to get in, being connected, staying through the ball, and like Max said about staying on your backside. I think that helps you as far as like putting the glove on your hand, letting the ball travel, and getting it all the way there. So that's just one of my my go-to drills that helped me in my career. And I'm telling you, I still do that to all the kids I teach.
I like it.
There's another guy who was a decent hitter who did that drill too.
Barry Bonds.
Yeah, that guy.
That's who I learned it from.
Yeah, that guy.
That's awesome.
Jermaine, can I ask
Yeah.
you a question about Troy Glass? This is off subject.
Okay.
But since we're on UCLA, so did you hear the story about how he was struggling in the big leagues early on? He went back to his collegiate swing.
No,
and
I haven't.
studied his college swing and then went back to that in the big leagues. Have you heard anything about that? No.
No, he never told me that.
I heard a rumor about that. I just thought that was kind of interesting. He went back to his old,
Well, that I wouldn't doubt, because they were swinging the -5, the stealth bats, those steroid bats. You remember those?
Yeah.
So
Bombs.
and so let me just tell you, the first 4 hitters had 40 home runs each in the lineup, and that was Troy Glass, Eric Burns. It was who else? It was like 2 other big leaguers as well. But I remember they had like this thing going on where they would put money into a pot, and everybody had to give like $10, $20, and whoever hit the most homers got the whole pile of money. And like, so every swing that they would try to take was trying to drive it over the fence. So you see how his swing was, where it was kind of like, he had that swoop swing, or if now you want to call it the launch angle. But yeah, that's it wouldn't surprise me if he didn't go back to that.
That's cool. All right, guys, we're gonna wrap it up. This is my daughter. Say hi, Juliet. So again, just to wrap it up, guys, 4 core values of hitting. The rhythm and timing, weight transfer. Tonight we talked about connection. We talked about a lot of stuff tonight, which was awesome. And I appreciate everything. I learned a ton tonight. And I can't wait for next week to do it again. And then I'm also doing these monthly hitting evaluations for the coaches out there, coaches and parents. You guys care to do that? Just I can walk you through the simple example of what I'm doing. But basically just give them an analysis, tell them what they're doing great, and then tell them what they can work on. This hitter in particular, everything was going together. There's no separation. So I showed him a picture of Bryce Harper. You can see the separation. His hands are behind his shoulders. And, that now with the bat down towards the catcher, of course. But here it's a terrible picture, but his hands like right in front of his, like right here. There's no separation. And that's what I really wanted him to work on. And I just tell him the result. I tell him what to fix, what to work on. And then I give him the program from the online course. Just walk him through a little exercise he can do, stretch for separation. And then that close tee drill, Jermaine, that you were talking about, Troy Gloss had you do. I'm not, in this pitch, I'm not that close, but usually you're on the white line or closer to hit the ball at the middle. So I had him do that to help him with the hip explosion. And then have a coach help you hold your shoulders so you can feel that separation. Your hips go, but your upper body stays back. And then the build-up drill. I told them to start at like 40% and then build to 50, then the 60, then the 70, and it really helped them start creating that separation. So this is what I do for kids in the when I'm not doing the webinars and not doing everything else. And if you guys are interested, if there's parents and coaches on tonight, just email me to sign up. It's adam@baseballutility.com. Would love to work with your players. So anyway, that's it. And thank you guys so much for being on. This was fantastic. I'm not sure if anybody has anything else to conclude it with, or
Same time tomorrow.
Same time tomorrow. Oh man. Next week we're going to talk about finishing the swing. And I know it's not as technical as weight transfer and connection, but finish is it's really important part of the swing. So finish, and then basically we only have 2 more weeks of this. I'm going to think about something else. Maybe we all can get together and keep doing webinars since we're in this quarantine situation. But again, thank you guys so much for being on. You guys are all awesome. Really appreciate you guys.
Thanks for doing this, Adam.
Yeah.
That was incredible. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right. You guys have a good night.
All right, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.